Hello and good morning and welcome back to the Wisdom of Odin. I am here enjoying a morning cup of coffee, watching the cloudy sunrise here in Kentucky. And I wanted to have this moment as a conversation to reflect on fate and the word and symbol that is Wyrd. And no, I'm not saying weird. I mean, it is a little weird, but I'm talking about W-Y-R-D, weird. So this symbol is something that a lot of people see when they first come into the faith, along with things like the Mjolnir or the Vegvisir or the Helm of Awe. So a lot of people coming into this, they start using this symbol, to tie them to fate to some way. And I have to say, myself personally, I've never really felt any kind of connection to this symbol. Now, I have felt a connection to fate and what it is to be following one's destiny and all those things. I'm definitely a big proponent of that. But when it comes to the actual symbol itself and the idea of Wyrd, I have always struggled to have any form of connection to the symbol in general. But I still see it all over the place. Many people still use this symbol and in their practices and their magics and all those things, and I see it all over the place. So I figured I'd make this video and share with you what I could find through my research about this symbol, and then have a conversation about fate in general. Now, normally I wait towards the middle or the end to start doing plugs, but I do have the Fellowship of the Northern Traditions mug right now, which you can get on our Fellowship of Northern Traditions store. But also, if you want to help our nonprofit, we do have our GoFundMe up now as well, so you can help us get the land. So there are links down below if you want to assist our nonprofit community, and make sure you're checking out those gathering videos, as they're all related to the nonprofit now, the Fellowship of Northern Traditions. So we have another one coming out here very soon from Ohio, and we just had one in Wisconsin. They're a lot of fun, a lot of really powerful rituals, so make sure you check them out. So as far as the research part of this, it wasn't that in-depth. I cannot find that much. I found some lines from the Prose Edda. I found a little bit online in secondary sources, but that's kind of it. And that's why I think another reason I've always struggled to connect with this symbol in general is just because I typically have trouble connecting to things that don't have some form of historical backing. Now, that doesn't mean they're not useful and they don't have some form of practice or power to them. It just means that it's hard to trace where they came from. So the actual word Wyrd comes from the Old English word weothen, or werethen. And what werethen means is to come to pass, which I kind of like that as a word. It sounds very Lord of the Rings, Tolkien-esque, but yes, Wyrd means to come to pass. And so I can see where that gets its idea into fate and what is to come. But again, that's not a lot to go off of. Another note I was able to find online is that the word werethen is a feminine word, which a lot of people have connected to the Norns as the fact that it's a feminine word. But again, this is definitely when we start getting to etymology that I'm like, okay, okay, it's a feminine word. I feel like that's a bit of a stretch to say, oh, it's a feminine word, therefore it's attached to the Norns and we should derive something from that. But when we're dealing with such little information, I can see why people connect to things like this. The next time I could find Wyrd mentioned was in the Prose Edda by Snorri Sturluson. Now, I could not find it mentioned in the Poetic Edda at all, so I only saw this mentioned by Snorri. And so I'll just read this section to you on the Norns. There are many beautiful places in heaven, and everywhere there was a divine protection around it. There stands one beautiful hall under the ash by the well, and out of this hall comes three maidens whose names are Wyrd, or Earth, Verthandi, and Skald. These maidens shape men's lives. We call them Norns. There we go. That is where you get weird. That's where we get weird. There's too much fun with this word. Now, interestingly enough, the term Wyrd is not used in my copy of the Poetic Edda, which is the Jackson Crawford edition. So if maybe someone can cross-reference their editions to see if the Poetic Edda refers to the Norn Earth as Wyrd, that might be helpful to see that Snorri was influenced by the Poetic Edda. Wait. I just bought an old Icelandic copy of the Poetic Edda. Let's head back to the office and see if I'm actually able to find any information and see what they used in the Poetic Edda from the old Icelandic. All right, back in the office, and essentially what I'm referring to is the Sæmundur Edda. So you can actually pick this up on Amazon, and it is so hard to understand. That's why I have the old Icelandic dictionary right here that helps me dig into it a little bit, and it's still really hard to understand. But I like it for these situations, so I've gone in here and I've looked at the stanza that refers to the Norns. So that's stanza 20 actually in my Crawford translation here, the Voluspa. Yeah, this is getting real crazy real quick, right? I'm over here like, look at all of these Eddas. So stanza 20 here in the Poetic Edda. Three wise women live there by the well under that tree. Earth is named one, so it lists it as Earth and not Wyrd, even though Snorri lists it as Wyrd. And then we have stanza 19 actually here. It says, Earth, Hetu, Aina, Adra, Verthandi, Skaru, Askidi, schooled in the Prithio, but refers to it as Earth once again. So the actual original source language, it's Earth, so it's not weird. So that's something that Snorri added into it. So again, something, it looks like the origin of Wyrd, at least as a determining for the Norn, seems like it came from Snorri, but I don't know where Snorri got it from. Oh gosh, this is the kind of stuff that made me really bored in church. I remember, in church they would get really into the old Latin meaning of words from the Bible and stuff. Ugh. But I think it is important sometimes to bring these things up, and that's why I bought the old Icelandic edition of the Poetic Edda, so I can do these small little researches and see what was originally mentioned in the old Icelandic. But again, at least we see some mentioning within the Prose Edda, some historical mentioning of the term Wyrd, so we can trust it a little bit more. At least I can trust it a little bit more the way I see it, because that's kind of it. I couldn't find any more evidence of historical usages of the word Wyrd, or the Web of Wyrd or anything like that, and I don't even actually see where the Web of Wyrd originated. From everything I could tell, the actual idea of the Web of Wyrd is completely modern concept, or at least a modern pagan concept. And that moves us forward to the actual symbol itself, of where this symbol came from. The symbol, 100%, from what I could tell, is not a historical symbol, at least not a Viking Age symbol or prior. This is a relatively modern symbol. And from what I understand, this symbol is actually created of all the Futhark runes, the Elder Futhark runes, put together into this symbol. And so it still is magic there, if you believe in the runes and their power. So, a symbol containing all the runes and their intersecting lines, I think there is something there. I think the best thing I could find online is that this is not a Viking symbol, it is a pagan symbol. And of course, this is called Norse Pagan symbols, and so it makes sense. So just understand that this is not a historic symbol. This is not something that comes from the Viking Age or prior. This is something that comes from the relatively modern age. Now again, that doesn't take away from it necessarily. I just want to make sure that you're informed of where it comes from. So the symbol itself, as far as what it actually means, all the intersecting lines and all the runes coming together just basically mean the different threads of fate coming together as well. So it's just a symbol for fate. It's a symbol for, what joins us together. But again, it also has all those runes in there, so it has all the power of the runes. That makes it tied to Odin. It makes it tied to the Norns. So in that sense, it's a very powerful symbol if it's connected to Norns and Odin at the same time. Now, as far as like actual uses, what could you actually use the Web of Wyrd for? That's kind of up to you. Again, me personally, I don't really ever see a use for it. Maybe if you're doing something with the Norns, you're wanting to connect with them, you could put it onto something, but I've never really tried to do anything with the Norns in that regard. But I think overall, what it would mean to me, if I would use it now, it's just an acceptance of fate and what is to come and what has already happened. So I think in that way, it can stand as a powerful symbol for, accepting one's fate and accepting what one has done and what one will do. The last thing I'll kind of add here is, as far as the historic, it has less to do with the Web of Wyrd itself, but more to do with the Norns. Now, this is something that I've read before, I'm sure, but it's not something that stood out to me until right now when reading it. So the Prose Edda continues on after describing the first three Norns as follows. There are also other Norns who visit everyone when they are born to shape their lives, and these are of divine origin. The others are of the race of elves, and the third group are of the race of dwarves. Then spoke Ganglerly. If Norns determine the fates of men, they allure terribly unfairly, when some have good and prosperous lives, and some have little success or glory. Some have a long life, and some short. High returned with, good Norns are one of the noble parentage, shape good lives, but as of the people that become the victims of misfortune, it is the evil Norns that are responsible. So now we're dealing with evil and good Norns. So, so if you're having a lot of bad luck in your life or having a lot of bad things, blame the evil Norns that are controlling your fate. And maybe the evil dwarf Norns or the evil elf Norns. Again, I don't know what to dive out of that, but I did find it interesting that there are different types of Norns, and so there are more Norns than just the actual three Norns themselves. And this is something I actually don't have a source material for because I forget where I read it, so maybe it was just someone's theory. But again, what's interesting is that the Norns were actually cycled. It was almost like a Robin Hood role where, a Norn would only serve for some time before they died and they were replaced by another Norn. And then each of the three Norns were a different, like one was Aesir, one was a Valkyrie, and then another was like a human or something like that. So again, interesting theory. And I think there are a lot of theories around the Norns, very little evidence and proof. But again, the idea of fate to me is what is most important to take out of this conversation. So what does fate mean to me? I definitely feel like there have been a lot of fated moments in my life, and I think everyone has fated moments. And I honestly would say if you have moments of deja vu, This, honestly, to me, this is my personal UPG, whatever you want to call it. Anytime, we all experience deja vu, where all of a sudden you end up in a moment in your life where you're like, whoa, I've done this before, or, you know, I've seen that before, or the classic black cat walking over twice, maybe. But to me, experiencing deja vu means that you're on the right path. It means you're on the path you're meant to experience because it's been laid out for you. So when you see that deja vu moment, it's a reminder that, oh, hey, I'm meant to be here. And we still have control over what we do, even in small ways. I got this coffee today and decided to put in this mug because I thought it'd be more aesthetically pleasing. Was this fated? I don't know. Was it fated for me to record here? I don't know. I woke up and I decided to record here. The way I've begun to describe fate is it's almost like a roller coaster ride that you finally find. Like once you walk to that roller coaster and you get on that roller coaster, but then for a while you're kind of on the ride and it's all about just kind of holding on and seeing how it goes. One experience I really think I can call to maybe encapsulate what it is to experience a fated moment is when I was in Munich, Germany, and actually discussing the Norns and fate. So I'd actually followed the story of this Norn fountain to find it in the city, and it wasn't exactly in a strange location. It was very close to downtown, and yet I still had to dig for it. There really is no Wikipedia page about it. I mean, if there was, but it was like basically no information about it, and I had to follow a bunch of just like increasingly sketchy online articles to find this thing. And so to actually stand in front of it after a lot of work was put into finding this thing was a really fated moment to me. And it filled me with so much energy and excitement. And I have found that anytime I have encountered these moments in my life that feel fated, I have this energy, I have this excitement, almost like I unlocked a hidden treasure within my own life and within the path I'm supposed to be on. Because again, I've definitely had those moments where I'm like, I feel like I'm actually meant to be here. Much like the Norn fountain or the Odin statue in Munich, I'm like, I'm meant to be here. I did not expect myself to be in Munich, Germany a year prior, 2 years prior, but I was there and it felt fated to be there. So I felt like I was on the right path. All the choices that led me there were still my choices, but I felt like I was on the path that has been laid out for me. So I do think that there are paths that are laid out for us, at least, you know, in some spiritual way. But it's up to us to actually find those paths and walk those paths and then stay on those paths as well. You know, you can go fuck off and do your own thing, but at the end of the day, I do think there are set paths for us, and maybe there's multiple paths. And I think it feels good to be on them, honestly. Like, you know, when you actually find that fated path, when you find that roller coaster, you know, you might think, oh, this is supposed to not, you know, I want to control my own destiny. Destiny is all. But at the same time, I think it just feels good to be on your fated path because it makes it feel like you have a purpose. And this is a sweet note here at the very end. The Wisdom of Odin has seen a lot of success, a lot of wonderful and amazing success, due in part to everyone that watches these videos, everyone that supports me on Patreon, all these modern ideas, and I definitely feel like I'm on a fated path. But it's not because of the analytics, it's not because of money, it's not because of views. It's because of the people I've met along the way. Anytime I feel like I'm benefited by the gods in any way, it's only because of the people I meet. Only because of the wonderful people in the community, the leadership that helps this entire community run, you know, all the random pagans and heathens I've met, all the small interactions, you know, the people that have just become part of this story. Those are the fated moments that I hold and hold the most dear. And the moments I do think are so fated is the amazing people I've met along the way. I mean, a lot of the people I've only met 2 years ago, less than 2 years ago. You know, people in the community that have been in these videos, I've only known for 2 years, and yet they feel like family to me. And if that is not fate, I do not know what is. So, in conclusion of this video, I hope I have been able to describe to you fate, and hope you don't fear it. I think fate is a good thing. You know, fate is complicated, as we see in the sagas, but I think it feels good to be on your destined path when you actually find it. But the Web of Wyrd itself is definitely not a historic symbol, at least not the Viking Age. But I do think it's a powerful symbol, and I think it's something that you can experience with. And again, I'm not experienced. I don't have any experiences with this. So if you have experiences, let me know down below. Let the community know. Let everyone know down below what your experiences are with the Web of Wyrd. But historically, we have very little information, and definitely the word weird itself, we have very little information. So I definitely want to know people's opinions down below. I want to know people's experiences, because it's only going to help me get a better answer when someone asks me this, or when I get in a conversation about the Web of Wyrd. But otherwise, I hope this video was helpful for you, and until the hall, Skull.